The skin does not forget, but is capable of forgiveness. For many years, looking in the mirror, I did not see my smile, my eyes, or even my wrinkles. I only noticed spots, first tiny and almost imperceptible, but over time they darkened, multiplied, and remained. And although I tried to accept them, I admit they caused me pain. Not out of vanity, but because it seemed my face had become foreign. I tried everything: expensive creams, foundation with intricate names, advice from magazines and recipes from the internet. Some promised miracles, others barely masked the problem, but nothing helped. And one day, amidst this quiet annoyance, a memory surfaced that I hadn't thought of in a long time. My grandmother. She had remarkable skin. Her face, though wrinkled, radiated health, with an even tone and softness unusual for someone who had lived a long life. Grandmother did not use creams or procedures. She only had a small dark glass bottle that she cherished like a treasure. That day I decided to return to her wisdom. I found the oil, prepared it as she taught me in my youth, and began to use it regularly, not expecting instant results. What happened surprised me more than I could imagine. Today I want to share this secret with you, explain what oil my grandmother used, why it is effective, how to apply it correctly, what precautions to take, and how it can help restore not only clearer skin but also that sense of confidence and well-being that we sometimes lose with age. This is not just a video about beauty, it's an act of memory, a bridge between generations, a story of how a simple recipe helped me reconcile with my reflection. Before starting, I am curious to know how old you are and from which country you are watching me. Write in the comments. I want to understand with whom I share this family secret. The traces of time and sun. They say time leaves marks, and our skin, like a faithful witness, confirms this. As the years go by, we begin to notice small brown spots or darker dots that first appear on the face, neck, and hands. They do not cause discomfort, yet they exist as silent witnesses of our history, lived under the sun, amidst hormonal changes, stress, or simply through life. Usually, such spots appear starting from the age of 50 or 60. Some notice it earlier, some later, but most face this problem. Why does it happen? The main culprit is the sun. Long-term exposure, even without sunburn, damages the deep layers of the skin. Even though we wore hats or used protective gear, ultraviolet rays accumulate and eventually manifest as sunspots, often forming on the cheeks, forehead, and the backs of the hands. However, it's not just about the sun. Hormonal changes, especially during menopause, also affect melanin production, the pigment responsible for skin color. As a result, uneven spots appear, sometimes resembling freckles, but they are not easy to get rid of. There is also a phenomenon called melasma. It is a more extensive pigmentation that covers large areas of the face, resembling a blurred silhouette. Melasma can arise from hormonal changes, the use of certain medications, or even accumulated emotional stress. Although it poses no health threat, such a problem can greatly affect self-esteem. Other factors include photosensitizing medications, polluted air, smoking, and certain liver diseases. All these aspects matter. Despite the fact that medicine has made great strides, many modern remedies come with a cost that is not always obvious. Aggressive ingredients, strong acids, and chemical compounds promise quick results, but in the long run, they can dry out, irritate, or further sensitize the skin. I remember spending a significant amount on a cream that promised to reduce spots in just 7 days. I used it with hope, but on the 3rd day my skin began to burn. I had to stop using it and then suffer for a long time with irritation. This was one of the last times I believed in something I couldn't understand or feel. In the pursuit of quick results, we sometimes forget that the skin needs a delicate approach, gentle care, and patience. Then I looked back to my childhood, to the times when I watched my grandmother care for her skin using methods that today seem almost forgotten. She did not resort to expensive creams, laboratory procedures, or trendy formulas. She simply opened a small vial she kept carefully and applied oil with slow movements, smelling of earth and herbs, something natural. This oil did not promise miracles, but over time it did something much more valuable. It restored, softened, and brought life back. And this is the secret I want to share with you in this video, because there is another way to care for the skin. A method that does no harm, does not force you to hide from the sun, and does not require deciphering incomprehensible compounds. A method that respects who you are, who you were, and who you can still become. This oil, living in a dark glass bottle, was on a small nightstand in my grandmother's room, where she kept her most precious items. Not jewelry, money, or expensive perfumes. Among old letters, embroidered handkerchiefs, and black and white photographs stood this little bottle. It always caught my attention. Securely closed and away from sunlight, it seemed to guard a true treasure. Indeed, it was. Inside was an orange oil infusion with a soft, earthy, and floral aroma. It was rosehip oil. Grandmother called it the elixir for the skin. Every evening, after washing her face with warm water, she would take a few drops on her fingers and gently spread it across her face. She did this silently, as if performing a small ritual. I didn't quite understand its purpose, but her skin, even at 70 or 80 years old, spoke for itself. Over time, I learned more. Rosehip oil is obtained from the seeds of a wild shrub that grows in countries like Chile and Argentina. Local communities used it to treat burns, scars, spots, and wrinkles. It was considered a gift from nature for restoring skin damaged by the sun and time. Surprisingly, decades later, science began to confirm what folk wisdom had long known. Research in dermatology showed that this oil is a natural source of essential fatty acids, such as omega-3 and omega-6, as well as vitamins A and E, two key elements that promote collagen production and skin cell renewal. It also helps reduce age spots, improves skin elasticity, decreases the appearance of wrinkles, and evens out skin tone, all without chemical additives, artificial fragrances, or aggressive components. I remember well the day I prepared butter again, just like my grandmother used to. To be honest, I approached it with some doubt. I had tried many methods and didn't want to build illusions, but something told me it was worth a try. I washed my face with warm water, carefully dried it, applied 2 drops on each cheek and 1 on my forehead, spreading it with light circular motions. I remember how she used this oil, but on the 5th day, I noticed changes. The spots didn't disappear instantly, but my skin tone became more even. The texture of my skin became softer. For the first time in a long while, looking in the mirror, I felt that everything was gradually falling back into place. It was hard to believe that such a simple remedy could have such a powerful effect, but it truly was. It is not only the effect of oil that matters, but also the way it acts, without haste and harm. It supports the natural process of skin regeneration, as it always has. This was my first important lesson. New is not always better. Sometimes answers lie in the past, in our grandmothers, in nature, in ingredients that don't need bright packaging to prove their worth. If you have pigment spots, wrinkles that trouble you, or simply feel that your skin has lost its vitality, know that you are not alone. There is something that can be done, more than just brightening, moisturizing, restoring, and rejuvenating. The amazing thing about rosehip oil is not only that it lightens spots but also transforms the skin from within. This oil not only creates a superficial layer that hides imperfections, it penetrates deeper, nourishes, and restores, returning to the skin what time and years have gradually taken away. One of its strongest qualities is deep hydration. Unlike many commercial creams with synthetic additives and fragrances, rosehip oil penetrates the skin without clogging pores, leaving it soft, supple, and radiant. It does not create a sticky or greasy film, which often causes irritation. On the contrary, it merges with the skin as if it has been awaited. Another benefit is the stimulation of cellular renewal. Thanks to essential fatty acids and natural vitamin A in its composition, it helps the skin renew faster, which is especially important in mature age when regeneration slows down. With regular use, collagen production is activated, improving skin elasticity and density, making it more vibrant. Another important point is that this oil helps reduce inflammation, soothes, and softens fine wrinkles. It does not eliminate deep wrinkles and does not promise miracles, but it noticeably smooths out small wrinkles around the eyes, mouth, and forehead. After several weeks of regular use, many note that the skin stops looking dull and tired. Her natural glow returns, regardless of makeup, stemming from inner well-being. Let me tell you 3 stories that deeply moved me. The first is about Marta, a 73-year-old woman from Seville, who shared that her face changed after the loss of her husband. She slept poorly, often cried, and felt her skin reflected that pain. One day, she remembered how her mother used rosehip oil and decided to try it. After a month, Martha noticed not only the lightening of her pigmentation spots, but also that she began to recognize herself in the mirror again. The second story is about Roberto, a 68-year-old retiree who worked as a farmer under the sun his whole life. His face was covered with spots, and his skin was dry. He started applying oil every evening, and in less than 2 weeks he sent a photo with a broad smile. "I haven't removed the years, but I have rid myself of neglect," he said. And he was right. The third story is about Elena, an 82-year-old woman who spends every evening with her great-granddaughter. She confessed that she uses oil not only for beauty, but also out of love for herself. Every evening, applying it, she feels that she is giving herself something good. Perhaps this is the greatest transformation. Now let's compare. Branded depigmentation cream can cost from 30 to 80 euros, some even more. Moreover, many of them contain alcohols, artificial fragrances, preservatives, and chemical compounds that can irritate the skin, especially in the elderly. Meanwhile, a bottle of pure, cold-pressed rosehip oil costs much less and can last for several weeks or even months. However, true value lies not only in price, but in the peace of mind that comes from using a product that originates from nature, not from a lab. You do not expose your skin to unknown substances and care for it with what has stood the test of time, with respect, wisdom, and love. Skincare after 60 is not just a matter of beauty. It is a way to honor yourself, to say, "I am still here. I am alive. I care for myself." For this, you don't need an expensive cream, just a small bottle of oil and a few minutes every evening. Your skin will recognize what is true. Over time, we discover many new things, and our body, including our skin, has its own memory. It does not forget what we do to it. Every product, every substance, every sharp experiment remains in her memory, and although sometimes we manage to hide what is unnatural, sooner or later, it will manifest. But when we use natural ingredients, the skin recognizes them. They come from the earth, not from the lab. They are not created for quick illusions, but to gently and respectfully accompany the natural processes of our body. Thus, in the long term, natural solutions prove to be not only safer, but also more sensible. Avoiding aggressive chemicals, dyes, synthetic fragrances, and artificial preservatives is not just a trend. It is a manifestation of care for one's health. By excluding such substances, we reduce the risk of allergies, irritations, peeling, and unwanted reactions. But what is most important is that we give the skin a chance to breathe. In my youth, I thought that skincare was a superficial matter related to vanity. I felt a bit awkward buying creams or asking questions at the pharmacy, but over time I realized that caring for the skin is not just hiding wrinkles or trying to be someone we're not. It's an expression of self-love, respect, and dignity. My grandmother understood this well. She never painted her lips and didn't try to hide her age. She didn't need to look younger, but every evening without exception, she cared for her skin with her oil. She did this quietly, as if it were an intimate ritual, thanking her face for still being there. "I care for you and support you." Although she lived in a modest neighborhood, neighbors always asked the same thing. How can someone have such skin at 80 years old? She simply smiled. She had no secret formula or miraculous remedy, just consistency, care, and nature. Today, science is beginning to confirm what popular wisdom has always known. Recent dermatological studies show that natural oils, such as rosehip, jojoba, or argan oil, are very similar in composition to the natural lipids of our skin. This means that the body easily accepts them without rejection and incorporates them into its restorative processes. Moreover, they do not disrupt the natural pH level, do not damage the skin's protective barrier, and do not cause addiction. There is no need to use them for a lifetime to see results. There is no need to increase the dose or mix with other substances. With proper, regular, and moderate use, the skin becomes stronger on its own. In our fast-paced world, where everyone seeks speed and ease, this is a beautiful act of quiet protest, a commitment to the natural, on what has no brand but possesses a history, on what does not shine in advertisements but glows in your mirror when you look at yourself honestly. Your skin does not need perfection. It needs care, tranquility, and sincerity. And believe me, only the real can provide that. More than just oils. These are youth oils. Over time, I realized that rosehip oils are not just a facial remedy. They are much more, as if nature had placed the key to caring for every corner of the body marked by time, sun, and life into that dark bottle. When I noticed the first changes on my face, I decided to try it on other areas. I don't know about you, but with age, the neck and décolletage also start to show signs. The skin becomes thinner, loses elasticity, and wrinkles and spots appear. The same goes for hands, which often reveal age the most. One day, instead of applying oil only to my face, I spread it on my neck, then on my chest, and finally on my hands. Later, I applied it to my elbows, where the skin always seemed dull and rough. I even decided to try some oil on my knees, which become dry and cracked in winter. The result was the same. My skin became soft, moisturized, and I felt a deep renewal. This oil not only brightens pigment spots, but also helps reduce the visibility of old scars, especially those we carry for years and sometimes find hard to look at. It soothes redness and irritation, improving the condition of skin dried out by cold, wind, or simply time. And you know what else it does? Although it's not mentioned on the packaging, it boosts self-esteem. When you look at your hands and they no longer look dry and cracked, when you put on a blouse with a neckline and don't feel the need to hide your neck, when you run your hands over your shoulders and they are no longer rough like an old duplicate, something important happens inside. You start to feel more alive, whole, in harmony with your body. It's not about wanting to regain youth. No. It's simply important to feel good at any age. To look in the mirror and not strive to change anything, but merely to cherish and be grateful. I always say, true beauty is not in hiding the marks of time, but in honestly honoring them. This oil taught me that. I don't need to look younger. It's important for me to be in harmony with myself, to care for what I have, to give care to my skin that has been with me for years, asking for nothing in return. Sometimes I linger a few seconds longer, rubbing oil into my hands, gently looking at them with scars, wrinkles, and folds. But they are full of strength and history, and I thank them for the chance to give them what they deserve. Because self-care, when based on love rather than demands, becomes an act of freedom, and you can do it at your own pace, without rules, just with a bit of time, warm drops of oil between your fingers, and the desire to give yourself care. Remember, it's not about the ideal, but about pride in yourself at every stage, at every age, in every corner of your skin. This is the most precious gift my grandmother left me. When I think of everything I shared today, I keep returning to that small dark glass bottle that my grandmother kept in the dresser. It had no labels, instructions, or loud names, but it contained something more valuable than any expensive cream. Wisdom. Rosehip oil is not just a natural remedy. It is a symbol. It is a bridge between generations, between the women who came before us and those we have become today. It can truly brighten spots, moisturize, soften, and restore the glow to tired skin. But he has one more, deeper power. It returns us to the value of care, without haste, without judgment, without the desire to change who we are. Because skincare is not an act of vanity. It is an act of respect and gratitude. And sometimes in this modern world, full of empty promises and chemical formulas, we forget that the most effective remedies are already known to our grandmothers. There is no need to complicate things and spend a fortune. Only persistence, patience, and love are needed. Thanks to this oil, I began to look at myself with tenderness again, to touch my face without disgust, to recognize myself once more. And this, believe me, is one of the most significant gifts I could receive. So, if you are here and have listened to the end, I want to say, give natural a chance. Not just for your skin, but for yourself. Turn each application into a small ritual. Do not rush or doubt. Follow my grandmother's example with love and respect. After all, it's not just about lightening spots, but about restoring trust. Strengthen your love for yourself and reconnect with our roots, with that part that knows. Beauty lies not in hiding your past, but in embracing it with pride. Now I want to know about you. Have you tried any natural remedies that actually helped? Share your experiences in the comments. I would be very interested to read them. And if you know someone who is facing issues with stains or wants to look better without spending a fortune, share this video. Perhaps this small gesture will be the beginning of a big transformation.